Hello, welcome to The Conversation on News Central Television. This is a program where we bring you up to speed with all the political happenings on the African continent. I am Benga Aboroa.
And I am Rita Omodia. Now, today on The Conversation, we will be starting in South Africa, where the country's anti-corruption watchdog has cleared President Ramaphosa of any wrongdoing in a cover-up scandal that involves the theft of large amounts of cash from the president's Phala farm in June 2022.
Meanwhile, it doesn't look like Nigeria's Labour Party will back down from challenging the results of the January 25th presidential elections, as the legal team of the party paid the country's electoral umpire, INEC, a visit earlier today to inspect the materials used in conducting the elections.
I mean, there's no backing down for the Labour Party. Since recent interviews, and the Labour Party candidate keeps on saying that they will still fight for their mandate. And we're seeing about 60 lawyers. I don't know if you saw the video.
Yes.
Meeting the INEC chairman. It was more like a war front there.
I really need a legal expert to break it down to me, because how many people will have a chance to speak in court? And why do they always have that big team of senior advocates of Nigeria? So one day I'm going to sit with my lawyer friends so they can explain it with me. But I'm happy with the developments that are happening, because you know, when they signed the peace accords, the talk was, if you're not happy with the results, go to court to seek redress instead of violence. And I'm happy that Nigerians kept the peace, and they're very responsible and going to court to challenge the results.
But I do wonder if this meeting is coming up as a result of the call for protest, because yesterday the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council was insisting that there will be protests today.
If they do not allow them to inspect the materials, but I believe from what we've said, they allowed them to inspect the materials at INEC, so we're making progress.
Definitely we are, and they definitely needed a propelling factor, so to say.
Exactly. So, but our topic for today, our first discussion of today, will be in South Africa, where the South African President Ramaphosa has been cleared of any wrongdoing in a preliminary report by the country's anti-corruption watchdog related to a scandal known as FarmGate. The report examines the alleged cover-up of between $580,000 and $5 million of foreign currency hidden at Ramaphosa's private game farm, Phala. The public protector has notified those involved of its findings, which include allegations that President Ramaphosa attempted to conceal the theft of the cash.
However, the report reportedly exonerates the president, although it does criticize the head of the Presidential Protection Unit for investigating the case directly rather than reporting it to the police. The scandal has caused significant political pressure on Ramaphosa and nearly cost him his job in December. While the report is likely to bring him some relief, a police investigation into the matter is ongoing. And this will be our focus for the conversation today as we bring in our guests. We have joining us all the way from Boye, Cameroon, Liyonga Walterson Liyange, a legal practitioner. We also have Mamodikwe Pilani, public policy analyst, who joins us from Rosenberg, South Africa. We also have Tumisang Moremane, a political commentator. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation. All right, so I'd like to begin with Mamodikwe, if we do have her. So can you give us and provide more details about the so-called FarmGate scandal and how it unfolded? What exactly were the specific allegations against President Ramaphosa in the FarmGate scandal?
Yes, I would like to just say from the upfront that I do appreciate your invite, and that unfortunately us in South Africa, we are going through a period, a very painful period of load shedding. So I'm not sure how long I would be able to talk before it goes. But what I can say is that there was an initial complaint regarding Phala, which was lodged by various individuals and political parties. And one of the complaints was directed to the public protector, and particularly requested to investigate whether the allegations against the president of abuse of power and whether he had violated what is known as the Executive Ethics Code, in terms of which the president is said to, or his conduct rather, that is said to have constituted improper conduct as contemplated in the Section A182 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And I must indicate also from the onset that the preliminary reports from the public protector ordinarily are sent to the individual complainants and parties with interest, and that is actually a shocker that it has been leaked. We are not sure as to the real reasons why it would have been leaked, but what we can say is that, people who might have leaked it are people who might have been aware that it's just merely a preliminary report, it's not a final report. So by preliminary report simply meaning that the public protector would then report and say, these are my preliminary findings. If you have any reservations or anything that you feel that I should have canvassed or that you'd like to canvass yourself for me to look into in depth, that I could do so. So what is now to happen is that the public protector would then have to await the response of parties interested, including the current incumbent, President Ramaphosa, and all other complainants, including the official opposition, which is the Democratic Alliance, which had also lodged a complaint against the president to the public protector. So you would also notice that in the report itself, the public protector says that she does not have jurisdiction to deal with certain issues that are relating to tax affairs of the president. She does not have a jurisdiction to determine criminal liability, whether you can say that the president is criminally or to be held criminally liable in terms of Section 34 of an act of parliament called PRECA. PRECA is an act that says that when you are in a position of authority and there is a criminality and you are aware, you have a legal obligation to report it. And it is said that the president, current incumbent Ramaphosa, had failed to report. And Ramaphosa's response was that I have reported, and I have reported to the head of the Presidential Protection Services, Billy Ross. But then he does not say whether he himself, like an ordinary person in South Africa, were expected to go to a police station to open a case. He says, no, mine. I ought to be treated differently, despite the fact that Section 9 of the Constitution says, in fact, the Constitution says that we are all equal before the law. So that is thrown out to say, okay, me as president, I can just merely tell head of the protection services that, no, there was a break-in. But the question is, the president, as someone who is also qualified in law, ought to have known better that there is a way in which one who is a citizen of South Africa ought to follow to open such a case. He did not. Now, what we see in the interim report is that the blame now is shifted from the president, who has told South Africans when he became the deputy president of South Africa initially that he has put all his assets in a blind trust. This asset, which I would assume that included also the farm which is attached to Phala or the Phala farm itself. So now what we have established is that, the president actually went further than over and above the fact that he alleged that it was put in a blind trust. Now it has been established that no, the president of South Africa even at some point engaged and discussed who will be the buyer, that there will be someone coming to buy, or he will organize buy, or he would arrange with the buyer. So which is indicative of a president who is been actively participating in the affairs of the farm. And now what the public protector had to find is that, is there an abuse of power? Did the president violate this ethics code? And to this point, the public protector has found that no, according to her, the president did not undertake paid job, which is a technicality, because we are looking at why would he then have an engagement with someone when he has indicated that he has placed all these funds in a blind trust? Why is now the president engaging here and there? And over and above, why is his special advisor float Why did he fly out of the country to Namibia to deal with matters relating to the Phala robbery? And now the public protector coming and saying that, technically no, and which is now what the initial complainant who lodged the complaint to the public protector coming out to say public protector misdirected herself because she's not answering what we have asked her to do. Now she's answering something else which we did not ask her. What we ask is that what can we say constitute conflict of interest in terms of this executive ethics code, in a sense that the president went out and actively participated in the affairs of Phala, and therefore thereby taking what is known as an active role, and therefore taking an active role for whatever money that was coming into. Then it said that he had participated in work for remuneration, and therefore he is guilty of violating the ethics code, executive ethics code, with regards to his involvement and subsequent involvement of his advisor in the investigation of the robbery itself.
Now, Tumisang, the acting public prosecutor, protector, I beg your pardon, Kgaleka, has found President Ramaphosa that did not contravene the executive ethics code. That's the complaint that triggered the probe. What evidence did the public protector rely on to clear the president of any wrongdoing?
Well, what the public protector seemed to suggest is that actually Ruud, who was the presidential advisor, had secretly, or rather, the allegation was that Ramaphosa might have secretly instructed Ruud to investigate, which led him to also Namibia. So the basis, the opposition party, which is the DA, amongst other complainants, is saying that look, there is no evidence that supports that proposition that the president actually is not guilty. They are saying that the public protector is merely relying on a technicality that says what is the definition of paid work. Therefore, she's saying that seeing that the president has disclosed business, that he has this business, and he has put all this in a blind trust, he cannot then be said to have actively participated, yet forgetting an important aspect that when she questioned one of the people involved, they indicated that we had discussed with the president as who will come and buy. So why are you then now just ignoring this specific evidence that says that seems to suggest that the president knew? So it is seems to be the bone of contention, and the reason why now the complainants are saying that the public protector has misdirected herself. She has decided to disregard some of the evidence given, and that this matter is not over by a long shot, and that it is going to definitely be with us for a while, because as far as they are concerned, this preliminary report is based on nothing but technicality, and it doesn't really, to them it seems more like with the suggestion of institutions that are captured. I would assume that they also suggested that the Office of the Public Protector as an institution supporting our democracy is also captured. In effect, that as you would know that the current public protector is actually the deputy public protector, and she's acting in the capacity. So with the suggestion that perhaps he's doing this for the president to appoint her permanently. So we don't know. She cannot say certain things when she did not have information from SARS, for instance. She did not have certain information from the South African Revenue Services. Over and above that, there is just recently one of the employees of the South African Revenue Services, when answering to the PAIA. PAIA is an act of parliament in South Africa that enables one to request information. It gives you right of access to information. So when that was done, the response from SARS was that it cannot trace the money that is said to have been paid to Ramaphosa. It could not trace, in fact, it does not have records of any money coming into the country. And then days later, you see the commissioner of SARS, Mr. Kisewat, coming out to say, Phala and
Chimisang,
are compliant. Yet,
yeah, while we're looking at this preliminary findings of the report, I'd like to bring in Imam Odikwe, because you said a whole lot about these findings, what the public protector is saying. Now, Imam Odikwe, if you're with us, the public protector found that the then head of the South African Police Service, South Presidential Protection Service, General Wally Rode, and other members acted improperly in investigating the crime. Now, for you, in what ways did he and the head of the Presidential Protection Unit act improperly during the investigation of the stolen foreign currency?
Thank you so much for the question.
Mama Dikwe, I don't know if you heard me. Did you get my question? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm still.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, if you can hear Mama
I can
Dikwe,
hear you.
please go on. All right, we'll try to get Mama Dikwe to join us. But in the meantime, Chimisang, I mean, this is going back to you. I mean, how would you rate the response of President Ramaphosa to this preliminary findings of the report? What exactly was his response from it?
Okay,
I missed the last part.
Can you hear me, Chimisang? I said, what exactly was President Ramaphosa's response to this preliminary findings of the report?
Am I the one who's supposed to respond?
Yes. Please.
Yes, Chimisang, please.
Yes, look, obviously, if you are accused of something and you have this kind of preliminary report that seems to exonerate you, it will excite you. You will say all sorts of things, that the indication that there is a clear rule of law in South Africa, that the president, is a law-abiding citizen, despite the fact that there are a lot of questions, with regards to this Phala issue. Now you see a shift. Obviously, the president issued a statement to the effect that they take note of the preliminary report and that they will await the final report. I must emphasize that preliminary report, the final report could come back different. It could come back saying quite different things. It could come back and saying that actually we were wrong there. Actually, here the president might have violated this. So Phala is actually a mirror of what we have seen in the country before. Phala is a mirror of what we've seen with the previous incumbent, President Jacob Zuma's Nkandla, what he was termed then, amongst other things, what was termed the fire pool. What Parliament did there was just to ensure that they protect the then president with a vote, not looking at substance. And we all know that it went to court and the court found differently. So chances are that in as much as it's exciting news for the president and the president welcomes the report, chances are that it will then go and up in court. Phala is
we've established the fact that the acting public protector has sort of exonerated President Ramaphosa, but she also pointed to the fact that the head of the Presidential Protection Unit and others have been implicated in the scandal. So will there be any consequences for these people that she mentioned as complicit?
I missed that.
I said the head of the public prosecutors mentioned that the head of the Presidential Protection Unit and others implicated in the scandal. Are there potential consequences for these people that have been mentioned as complicit?
I'm not sure what you say, but I think you might be referring to Ruud, who was the head of protection of the presidential protection
Yes.
services.
Are there going to be consequences for them?
I'm not sure what you are saying, but I'm actually, what I will say to you, I'm not sure, I couldn't hear what you are saying, but what I can just say in relation to Ruud is that, yes, he must be held accountable. He must be held to account, because as well, as much as the president has to be held accountable, because if he was then actively taking part in Phala affairs when he's president, and which is tantamount to basically violating the ethics code, the executive ethics code, then in that context, you cannot, in South Africa, there is this, people have propensity to just blame the other person. You would recall many years in a similar fashion that there was a landing at Waterkloof Military Base Airport by the Guptas, and that there was a certain gentleman by the same name of Kolwani who then had to take the fall. And instead of being punished, he was promoted and he went on to become ambassador for South Africa somewhere. So you can see that there will be a concerted effort, because if you protect the world, if you implicate the world, and if you blame the world and say world must take responsibility over the issue, then in essence you are protecting the president, and you are saying that he must be the one to face prosecution. He might face prosecution. The consequences might be that you have violated FRACA, therefore this constitutes a criminal offense, will hold you before a court. But I can assure you that he will not be treated as any other acoustic person would be. There would be a level of protection, because he would have, his implication would have been to protect the president.
Right.
And to disregard, for instance, a report by the then former, or rather the former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo, who actually said there is a prima facie. He's not saying the president is guilty of. He's saying, in terms of the evidence that we've been given, there seems to be a case for president to answer. But all that we see is the parliament, ANC, who are the ruling party, voting, not in principle, but using the vote to just ensure that the president does not come to account, in the same fashion that President Zuma was protected by parliament.
All right, thank you so much, Tumisang. So from the findings report now, the president has somewhat been exonerated, but we have the police service and we also have the presidential protection service all indicted. But we'll wait to see how it all pans out. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you. As I depart, I will say that the president, according to me, has not been exonerated. This is just a preliminary report. Parties will say what they are not happy with. And if anyone is not completely happy with this report, then they will have to take up this report to court for review. And lastly, what you must remember is that there are allegations that others are saying in the corner that even if it were to come before the court for review, it's pointless. They are saying CR17 bank statements indicate that there is a level of capture of all these state institutions.
So in other words, it's not over then, Tumisang.
Exactly. The president travels are not over. Thank you very much for your insights, Tumisang. We do appreciate.